What's going to happen here?
Nobody knows. And that is really the crux of the problem. Suffice it to say, this is not the situation that Kevin McCarthy, the the current majority leader, wanted to be walking into, because Republicans don't have the majority that they expected to have going into this vote. McCarthy can only lose 4 votes on the floor. And so he has got to make sure he's got every single one of these votes locked down. And he simply hasn't gotten the commitments from all of the Republicans that he needs going into this vote. And you mentioned, Megyn, in your introduction, that he's been negotiating and making concessions. And I think he thought that in exchange for these concessions, the holdouts would say, okay, you've got my vote. But he's been making the concessions and not getting the votes in exchange. And so a failure for McCarthy on this first vote, as you said, would be the first time in a century that this has happened. And the result will be, if he wins on a first vote or a second vote, he's going to be a weakened speaker. And that's going to be a problem for Republicans as they head into the majority and face off in some kind of a unified front against Biden. Because at the end of the day, this is the Republicans in Congress against a Democratic Senate and the Biden administration.
This is basically the same sort of wing of the party that's loyal to Trump saying, burn it down. We don't give a damn if he's weakened. We don't give a damn if this is our one branch of government that we, the Republicans, control. We're not pro-Republican just because, it's not Democrat. We object to a lot of the ways Republicans do business too. And we want concessions to us and the way we think in order to support this guy. And I like Kevin McCarthy, but he has been all over the board. He's sort of a notorious flip-flopper when it comes to currying favor with one group, and then it turns out that's out of favor, and he's like, forget that, I have a new position. And these guys sense it, and I guess this is the point, right? To weaken him and cause some chaos.
Yes, it's to enhance their power at the expense of his power and probably at the expense of the power of the party. And so going into this, they are extracting concessions from McCarthy, such as that it only takes 5 Republicans to call a vote for a new speaker on the House floor. And if you recall, this is what did in John Boehner. Back when it was Boehner, it took only 1 Republican to do this. So they've increased it to 5. But that is something that means McCarthy's power could go in the scope of 24 hours. And that's been a huge problem for Republican speakers. And you're right. I think they would not say that, we're the Trump caucus and that they want to let chaos rule. They would say that they're adhering to principle over party. They've demanded some investigations, an investigation into a commission into China's growing power, and a couple of other investigations that McCarthy has agreed to give them. But the reality is they are creating incredible chaos and weakness in Republican House leadership that is really not going to be prepared to unify against Democratic control in the Senate and in the White House.
Meanwhile, so there's 222 Republicans now, 213 Democrats. Technically 212 now because one died. So McCarthy needs 218 and to win. So he's got 222 Republicans. He needs 218 to win. And you got 5 to 9 holdouts. So it's, not so good, the math. He's got to work on getting a few more over to his side or he's about to be embarrassed. Again, it's happening now. So we've got our eyes on it and we'll bring you the updates. None of the Democrats is moving, according to what I read. They're all going to vote for their minority leader, now that they're in the minority, Hakeem Jeffries, over and over and over. And their instructions are show up for every vote. Because if the fewer Democrats show up, the lower the threshold he needs, because there's basically a majority present for the vote. So they're under strict orders, get your ass into the chamber and make sure you vote so that he has to keep getting 218 and a number they don't think he could get. There's some drama, politics. I don't usually like it at this level when you're really up close to the ugly painting, it gets unattractive and just hard to follow. But this is kind of an interesting battle. And I'm sure McCarthy will say a win's a win. If he gets it, ugly or otherwise, great. But it's really not 100% clear he's going to get it. And it could take days now to find out.
Absolutely. If McCarthy wins this, he's the Speaker of the House and he will definitely say a win is a win. And you're right. This is a majority of the votes of everybody present, of all the lawmakers present on the House floor, Republicans and Democrats. So Republicans need to unify their party. As you said, there are 222 Republicans. And McCarthy can only afford to lose 4 because they're essentially voting against all of the Democrats present on the floor. So he needs 218 out of 222 in order to be elected speaker. If he loses on the first vote, they go to a second vote. And where the drama would really begin is if he gets fewer votes on that second vote, the question becomes, does he step down or bow out? Now, McCarthy's people, of course, aren't going in saying, yeah, he'll step aside if we get to a second vote. They're saying he's going to stick it out to a second, third, fourth, fifth vote. But I think in reality, we don't know what will happen. And he does not know exactly how many votes he has. You said, between 5 and 9. That's a problem. Like every one of these votes matters. And he, because he doesn't have firm commitments from a lot of these guys yet, he doesn't know exactly how many votes he has. If we get to a second or a third vote, you're going to hear people talking about who's the backup here.
Who is the backup?
And one of the problems for these holdouts, Matt Gaetz and others, is they don't have a preferred candidate. I think Steve Scalise would be the next in line, but he's not exactly their preferred candidate either. He's been a part of House leadership for years and years. And by the way, that would throw all the rest of the Republican House leadership slots open, because Scalise holds one and everybody else would start moving around in those slots. So we're in for a lot of drama if this goes to a second or a third vote.
What about this may be crazy? What about like Elise Stefanik, somebody who is acceptable to the more Trumpy wing of the party, but seems to be liked by most Republicans? I mean, is there anybody like that on deck?
It's a good question, Megyn. I think you'd be surprised. Elise Stefanik is one of the few House Republicans, and I have a lot of respect for her. She's a young woman. She's my age, 38. Super smart, Harvard graduate, super ambitious. But she was one of the few Republicans who, after this midterm election, came out and endorsed Donald Trump for president. Kevin McCarthy hasn't done that. None of the other House leaders have done that. And I do think that that is something that is going to cause her problems with some of the moderates in the caucus who, were eager for Republican leaders to come out and say, no, Trump was actually the part of the problem in these midterms and part of the reason that Republicans are in this situation, that they don't have a bigger majority, and that they're in the middle of all of this chaos right now.
That's the problem. So you shore up that right wing base and you start losing, people start peeling off in the moderate middle and you're back to the same problem, only with a different candidate. All right, stand by, Eliana. Emily Jashinsky is here. She's culture editor at The Federalist. Highly recommend their podcast as well. Emily, thank you for joining the party. And so before we move on from Speaker McCarthy, do you have any interesting predictions on how this is going to go? We're told Kevin McCarthy has gotten to the floor and that the vote will be underway. And I don't know. Every smart person I know is like, have no idea. Let's watch and see.
Yeah, and most of the people I know that have their their finger on the pulse of what's happening with House Republicans say the same thing right now. They have absolutely no idea how this is going to shake out. It's always pretty inscrutable because you never know what backroom deals are being struck. But I would also say that, conservatives should feel comfortable like taking a W on this, because House leadership on the Republican side, it's just never going to be Jim Jordan. It's never going to be the sort of conservative fantasy. And I think that's an indictment of the Republican Party, but it's also reality. And what conservatives have done is pushed Kevin McCarthy gotten some serious concessions out of him. It's hard to even, you can't emphasize enough how big his flip-flop on the motion to vacate is. That's just a huge concession to the right, puts them back in the situation they were in with John Boehner, which was a hugely successful moment for the Tea Party wing of the Republican Party at the time. And so I think, it's a really important thing for conservatives to recognize that this is a new time. They were really able to drag Kevin McCarthy over to the right. And if I had to place a bet, I would say I think McCarthy will pull this off. I think he will ultimately be fine, precisely for that reason, because he's been so transactional. He's been so willing to make concessions to House Republicans and I interviewed him about all this back in September. He does, at least one thing you can say, like him or not, is that he really understands the conservative movement right now. He really understands the Trump movement. He knows where voters are. He's not where voters are. but he does know where they are. And that's actually, it sounds like a small thing, but for DC, that's actually a pretty important thing. And you don't find
Well,
it
I was
all
saying
that
he's
often.
flip-flop a lot, but he survived. It's like you can make the case that was smart flip-flopping because he wound up still in office and a lot of those Republicans didn't. It's a new year, so let's make 2023 all about a new you. Thanks to Genucel Skincare, you can look 5, 10, even 15 years younger. During the Genucel New Year's clearance event, save over 70% off. 70! Genucel's most popular package, all their best stuff to take care of all your skincare needs. See yourself with those fine lines, forehead wrinkles, sagging jawline, dark skin marks, skin redness, and even those under-eye bags gone right before your eyes. You really can make a big difference on these things. Genucel works for women and men, and it's safe for all skin types and perfect for skin of any age. With its immediate effects product, Genucel will promise results to you that will make you smile, guaranteed, or 100% of your money back. Right now, Genucel's top-selling hyaluronic acid serum is included absolutely free in every one of their most popular packages. Enjoy maximum skin hydration for a more youthful appearance. Go to Genucel.com/MK60 and enter MK60 at checkout. Every order automatically upgraded to free shipping for the new year. Don't wait. Go to Genucel.com/MK60. GENUCEL.com/MK60. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.